Good morning. I am going to try my first video instructions. This is going to be for that holiday basket that I posted the other day. Several asked me if I had some instructions, and I basically was just working on trying to make one for myself when I could not understand the instructions of the pattern I purchased. So first of all, I think the first step is looking at your fabric or thinking about what type of basket that you would like to make. Do you have an artist in the family or a friend that you would like to make a basket for, or for yourself? Here's some fall fabrics that I happen to have, some sewing fabrics for some friends that might want a little basket, or with Christmas coming on us, it might be time for some Christmas baskets to give to neighbors and friends as Christmas presents. I have made several baskets, all with varying success, and I've learned things that I like about each basket and things that I don't like. Of course, this one wound up being my favorite. I don't know if it was the size or the fact that maybe I had worked out some things that I didn't like, and it made the basket, I thought, just the perfect size for gifting. Once I decided on the type of basket that I wanted to make, I cut my fabric, and I cut it in, some of them are exactly as the written instructions will have you do. Some I've tried to kind of fudge a little bit because of the size of the panel or what I was trying to use to make it all fit. Or if you would like to, you can make it a full one-piece fabric, which I've done with this one. I'm going to sew this up after a bit, and I'm going to make it a little bit larger than what I've done in the past, but I thought this was just too pretty to cut, and I'll have all that information in the written instructions. This one is an example of some material I had left over from Halloween, and I wanted to be sure to include these 3 pumpkins. I may trim it down just a little bit, either here or at the top, but I did want to include the full pattern of this right here in my panel. If your material is directional, it's very important that you lay it out and know that, okay, this one needs to be sewn on in this direction, even though it looks like it's upside down. And then that way, when you flip your basket, these will both be standing up the way they need to. And actually, I do have it laid out incorrectly. My pumpkins would be upside down, so I need the bottom of my pumpkins to be pointing down towards the base to make sure that this one will come out correctly. Most of the instructions that I give you actually has the lining being out of one piece of fabric. But in one of my baskets, this one right here with the sewing machines, I wanted to include this fabric in there. But I quickly realized that it was directional. And if I didn't do it in 2 pieces, the seam along the bottom, that part of this would be upside down. So I made sure that I pieced it in 2 pieces, and that way, no matter which direction I'm looking at my basket, the writing is all the right direction. I'd like to share a tip with you that another quilting friend told me about. And when I cut long strips of fabric, sometimes my ruler will slide over. And I have added tape on the back of these rulers, but even then it still slides a little bit if I put pressure on the wrong direction. I'm not ready to buy those new high-dollar rulers that aren't supposed to slide, and they do work. I've used a friend's before, but they're quite pricey, and I'm not ready to invest that kind of money into some brand new rulers when what I have is perfectly fine. She puts a 3-pound weight at the end of the ruler, and then her hand here, and then simply cuts, and it stops this ruler from sliding. And then your cut does not veer off and make your piece of fabric a little wonky. Once you have sewn your pieces of fabric together to make the exterior for your basket, you'll want to press it, and then I recommend pressing your seams open. It just kind of cuts down on the bulk, because when you add this Thermolam that I'm fixing to show you, it really gets quite bulky. So I pressed my seams open. I pieced these cute little sewing ladies with some sewing buttons. I pressed those seams open. I added the base and pressed those seams open. I was at a workshop not too long ago, and we had a lot of little tiny 1-inch strips that we were sewing together. And the instructor suggested that we use this strip stick to help us with pressing our seams open. And it really is excellent. It is called the strip stick. And there, if I can get this to kind of come in, the website is www.stripstick.com. And you simply lay it underneath your fabric, centering the seam at the top. It's rounded on one side, flat on the other, and it makes it very easy to press those seams open. Then when you move on to the next seam, especially if they're close together, then you're not pressing this closed or uneven again. So I do recommend this. I didn't know if I would use it that much, but I actually have. I was quite surprised. It is a very nice tool to have. Once I have my piece for the exterior of the basket finished, I'm ready to add the stabilizer. And this is Fusible Thermolam Plus 971F. I found it at Joann's. I was lucky enough to get it on sale for 50% off. Be sure to follow the instructions that say to press with a damp cloth for 10 to 12 seconds. It does make a difference. But I'm ready to add that to the outside of my basket fabric. I will not put any fleece on the lining. I did that with my first bag because the instructions the pattern I had purchased with the instructions were not clear enough, and it didn't say do it, and it didn't say not do it. So I added both, and it was just way too much. I was kind of worried when I picked this up at Joann's if this would really be stable enough to hold my basket. And as you can see, it does. It does a very good job of keeping the form for the basket. And I think once I have items in it, whether they be cookies or bread or sewing related items, fat quarters that I'm going to gift, then I think that it will work really well. I cut this to fit. I cut exactly what I need. I'll take it to the ironing board. I'll press it, and then I'll come back. Once I have the stabilizer added to the fabric piece, now is the time to do any kind of quilting, any type of top stitching that you might want on your basket. On this one right here, before I sewed the side seams, I top stitched here and here. I also top stitched here. I saved this for after I sewed the lining in because I kind of needed to sew the lining at the same time and to close the opening that you have so that you can turn your basket. I top stitched my handles, and I also did a very basic straight line, I guess you could call it quilting or stitching, from one corner to the center and back down, and then from the other corner down and back up to the other side. So I think it just kind of polished it off, made it look a little more finished. And so once you do that before you sew your sides together, I have forgotten to do that at times and had to go back and take the sides apart because I wanted to add some stitching. But once you have your piece of material with your fleece on the back, take it to your machine and do some top stitching and do maybe some straight line quilting, or not. You don't have to do any. I did not do any on this bag, and it seems to be okay. And I just did top stitching on this area right here. I already had it sewn together. On this bag, I did sew some straight line waves from some decorative stitch that I had in 3 rows. And I think this bag, and I'll go into it why later, was not one of my favorites. I did not top stitch the handles until after I put them on, and it is just much simpler to do it all before you assemble your bag. I don't have a piece of fabric with just that the sides have not been sewn together yet, but you want to fold your bag in half. Ignore these. I've already boxed the corners on this one, but sew your bag in half, sides to sides, fold it up, long sides to long sides. You're going to sew right here from the fold up to the end, and again over here from the fold up to the end, and this will be after you add the fleece, and I have not done that to this piece yet. And after you have done any kind of top stitching or quilting that you want to do, you will sew these sides, and I always use a 1/4 inch seam. My free video can only be 15 minutes long, and I can see that I'm going to post on YouTube, and I can see that this one is quickly approaching 15 minutes. So I'm going to actually stop this one and start again with another one. So you've cut out, you've looked through your material, you found what you wanted, you have cut out the pieces to make a piece of fabric or just one solid piece like I did earlier with the poinsettia fabric, because it was so very pretty. And I've sewn those pieces together. I've adhered it to the stabilizer, and I have sewn the side seams together once the stabilizer is on there. So the next video will show you how to box the corners and how to add the lining.